My mind is part of God. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Your mind is part of God's. You are very holy. Your mind is part of God's. You are very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Thank you all so much for joining me today and studying A Course in Miracles. We're ready for lesson 35 in A Course in Miracles. We're studying from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles this year. I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks. And we're ready. This is lesson 35 for Tuesday, February the 4th of 2025. Let's read through the lesson. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Today's idea does not describe the way you see yourself now. It does, however, describe what vision will show you that you're very holy. It is difficult for anyone who thinks he is in this world to believe this of himself. Yet the reason he thinks he is in this world is because he does not believe it. You will believe that you are part of where you think you are. That is because you surround yourself with the environment you want. And you want it to protect the image of yourself that you have made. And that's something. That's quite a thought, that we create the environment that we want, or we make the environment we want because we're trying to protect the image of ourselves. The image is part of this environment. What you see while you believe you are in it is seen through the eyes of the image. This is not vision. Images cannot see. The idea for today presents a very different view of yourself. By establishing your source, it establishes your identity, and it describes you as you must really be in truth. We will use a somewhat different kind of application for today's idea because the emphasis for today is on the perceiver rather than on what he perceives. That'd be us instead of what we're seeing. We're the perceiver, the dreamer of the dream. Paragraph 4. For each of the 3 5-minute practice periods today, begin by repeating today's idea to yourself. My mind is part of God's. I'm very holy. And then close your eyes and search your mind for the various kinds of descriptive terms in which you see yourself. Include all the ego-based attributes which you ascribe to yourself, positive or negative, desirable or undesirable, grandiose or debased. All of them are equally unreal because you do not look upon yourself through the eyes of holiness. Or I think of that, you do not look at yourself through the eyes of wholeness. Anyway, holiness, wholeness, kind of the same idea. Paragraph 5. In the earlier part of the mind-searching period, you will probably emphasize what you consider to be the more negative aspects of your perception of yourself. Toward the latter part of the exercise period, however, more self-inflating descriptive terms may well cross your mind. Try to recognize that the direction of your fantasies about yourself does not matter. Illusions have no direction in reality. They are merely not true. A suitable unselected list for applying the idea for today might be as follows. I see myself as imposed on. I see myself as depressed. I see myself as failing. I see myself as endangered. I see myself as helpless. I see myself as victorious. I see myself as losing out. I see myself as charitable. I see myself as virtuous. You should not think of these terms in an abstract way. They will occur to you as various situations, personalities, and events in which you figure cross your mind. Pick up any specific situation that occurs to you, identify the descriptive term or terms you feel are applicable to your reactions to that situation, and use them in applying today's idea. After you have named each one, add, "But my mind is part of God's. It is very holy." So you would say, I see, like as using his list, I see myself as, and if one of the ones you used is imposed on, then after you've said that to yourself, you then dismiss it as you say, "But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy." And then sit back and relax and let the next thought come to you. During the longer practice periods, there will probably be intervals in which nothing specific occurs to you. Do not strain to think up specific things to fill the interval, but merely relax and repeat today's idea slowly until something occurs to you. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. And just hang out with that idea until something occurs to you. And then when you catch yourself looking at something or thinking about something, identify the underlying way you see yourself. I see myself as, and then dismiss it by saying, "But my mind is preoccupied," or excuse me, but my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Kind of blending another lesson in there. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. That's not what we're supposed to be using today. But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Although nothing that does occur should be omitted from the exercises, nothing should be dug out with effort. Neither force nor discrimination should be used. As often as possible during the day, pick up a specific attribute or attributes you are ascribing to yourself at the time and apply the idea for today to them, adding the idea in the form stated above to each of them. If nothing particular occurs to you, merely repeat the idea to yourself with closed eyes. Of course, he's saying to do that throughout the day, to be alert to different ways you're seeing yourself. Identify it by saying, "I see myself as," and then to dismiss it as you say, "But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy." Okay, now let's go look at our text reading, and hopefully we'll have time to do just a short, maybe one of our 5 minutes, or at least get you started on your 5-minute journey at the end of with the song. Okay, let's go look in chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness in the text, section Roman numeral 2, the voice for God. Healing is not creating, it is reparation. The Holy Spirit promotes healing by looking beyond it to what the children of God were before healing was needed and will be when they have been healed. This alteration of the time sequence should be quite familiar because it is very similar to the shift in the perception of time that the miracle introduces. The Holy Spirit is the motivation for miracle-mindedness, the decision to heal the separation by letting it go. Your will is still in you because God placed it in your mind, and although you can keep it asleep, you cannot obliterate it. God Himself keeps your will alive by transmitting it from His mind to yours as long as there is time. The miracle itself is a reflection of this union of will between Father and Son. Paragraph 2. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of joy. The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of joy. Who wouldn't want to be filled with the Spirit? filled with joy. He is the call to return with which God blessed the minds of his separated sons. This is the vocation of the mind. The mind had no calling until the separation, because before that it had only being and would have not understood the call to right thinking. The Holy Spirit is God's answer to the separation, the means by which the atonement heals until the whole mind returns to creating. And I might point out the word call is capitalized, the word atonement is capitalized, and the word answer is capitalized. God's answer, the Holy Spirit, all divinity. Paragraph 3. The principle of atonement and the separation began at the same time. When the ego was made, God placed in the mind the call to joy. This call is so strong that the ego always dissolves at its sound. That is why you must choose to hear one of two voices within you. One you made yourself, and that one is not of God. But the other is given you by God, who asks you only to listen to it. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. His is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. It is possible even in this world to hear only that voice and no other. It takes effort and great willingness to learn. Wow, it's possible to hear only the Holy Spirit in this world and hear no other? But it takes effort and great willingness. Do we have the willingness? Are we willing to put out the effort to do our lessons today? My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. And do the mind searching. I see myself as. And then dismiss it by saying, but my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. That's the effort we need to put in. But have the willingness to listen to God's voice. It is the final lesson that I learned, said Jesus. And God's sons are as equal as learners as they are as sons. 4. You are the kingdom of heaven, but you have let the belief in darkness enter your mind, and so you need a new light. The Holy Spirit is the radiance that you must let banish the idea of darkness. His is the glory before which dissociation falls away, and the kingdom of heaven breaks through into its own. Before the separation, you did not need guidance. You knew as you will know again, but as you do not know now. Reminds me of 1 Corinthians 13, where he says, right now we're seeing through a mirror that's kind of hazy, kind of dark, but eventually we'll know even as we're still known by God. God does not guide because he can share only perfect knowledge. Guidance is evaluative because it implies there is a right way and also a wrong way, one to be chosen and the other to be avoided. By choosing one, you give up the other. The choice for the Holy Spirit is the choice for God. God is not in you in a literal sense. You are part of him. When you chose to leave him, he gave you a voice to speak for him because he could no longer share his knowledge with you without hindrance. Direct communication was broken because you had made another voice. Paragraph 6. The Holy Spirit calls you both to remember and to forget. You have chosen to be in a state of opposition in which opposites are possible. As a result, there are choices you must make. In the holy state, the will is free, so that its creative power is unlimited and choice is meaningless. Freedom to choose is the same power as freedom to create, but its application is different. Choosing depends on a split mind. The Holy Spirit is one way of choosing. God did not leave his children comfortless, even though they chose to leave him. The voice they put in their minds was not the voice for his will, for which the Holy Spirit speaks. 7. The voice of the Holy Spirit does not command, because it is incapable of arrogance. It does not demand, because it does not seek control. It does not overcome, because it does not attack. It merely reminds. Reminds you what you already know. It is compelling only because of what it reminds you of. It brings to your mind the other way, remaining quiet even in the midst of the turmoil you may make. The voice for God is always quiet because it speaks of peace. Peace is stronger than war because it heals. War is division, not increase. No one gains from strife. What profiteth it a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? That's a quote Jesus made out of Mark 8:36 and Matthew 6:26. It recorded there. If you listen to the wrong voice, you have lost sight of your soul. You cannot lose it, but you cannot know it. It is therefore, in quotes, lost to you until you choose right. 8. The Holy Spirit is your guide in choosing. He is in the part of your mind that always speaks for the right choice, because He speaks for God. He is your remaining communication with God, which you can interrupt but cannot destroy. The Holy Spirit is the way in which God's will is done on earth as it is in heaven. Of course, he's quoting there out of what he said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 10, recorded. The Lord's Prayer. God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Both heaven and earth are in you because the call of both is in your mind. The voice for God comes from your own altars to Him. These altars are not things, they are devotions. What are you devoted to? Yet you have other devotions now. Your divided devotion has given you the two voices, and you must choose at which altar you want to serve. The call you answer now is an evaluation because it is a decision. The decision is very simple. It is made on the basis of which call is worth more to you. So we're working with our value system. Is the Holy Spirit's voice worth listening to? Takes effort and great willingness. Or is it? Yeah. But we want to do it. What's it say? It is possible even in this world to hear only the voice, that voice and no other, the Holy Spirit. It takes effort and great willingness to learn. Paragraph 9. My mind will always be like yours because we were created as equals, says Jesus. It was only my decision that gave me all power in heaven and earth. And that's something that he said on the Great Commission there at the end of chapter 28 of Matthew. It's recorded, verse 18. My only gift to you is to help you make the same decision. My only gift to you is to make the same decision that he made. This decision is the choice to share it, because the decision is the decision to share. This decision is the choice to share it because the decision itself is the decision to share. It is made by giving and is therefore the one choice that resembles true creation. I am your model for decision. By deciding for God, I showed you that this decision can be made and that you can make it. Paragraph 10. I have assured you that the mind that decided for me is also in you, and that you can let it change you just as it changed me. And of course, that's a quote out, the mind that is in me is also in you, is Philippians 2:5, which spoke about, was it just yesterday, I think, or day before? So he says, I have assured you that the mind that decided for me is also in you, and that you can let it change you just as it changed me. This mind is unequivocal because it hears only one voice and answers in only one way. Unequivocal, leaving no doubt, unambiguous, unquestionable. So he says here, this mind is unequivocal, the Christ mind, because it hears only one voice and answers in only one way. You are the light of the world with me. Rest does not come from sleeping, but waking. The Holy Spirit is the call to awaken and be glad. The world is very tired, because it is the idea of weariness. Our task is the joyous one of waking it to the call for God. Everyone will answer the call of the Holy Spirit, or the sonship cannot be as one. What better vocation could there be for any part of the kingdom than to restore it to the perfect integration that can make it whole? What better vocation? In trying to make things whole again. Hear only this through the Holy Spirit within you, and teach your brothers to listen as I am teaching you. Paragraph 11. When you're tempted by the wrong voice, call on me to remind you how to heal by sharing my decision and making it stronger. As we share this goal, we increase its power to attract the whole sonship and to bring it back into the oneness in which it was created. Remember that the word yoke means joined together, and burden means message. Let us restate, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, in this way. Let us join together, for my message is light. Wow, and the light sure came on right then, didn't it? Right as we said that. Let me see if I can tune that down just a little bit. Isn't that something? My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Sun just popped out. And that's something that you can read if you want to read the whole passage in Matthew 11, verse 28 through 30. I'll put all these Bible verses that I talk about. Try to put most of them in the description below. But anyway, Jesus said that. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. You can also think of it this way. Let us join together, for my message is light as the sun comes out. And our last paragraph for today. I have enjoined you to behave as I behaved, but we must respond to the same mind to do this. This mind is the Holy Spirit, whose will is for God always. He teaches you how to keep me as the model for your thought and to behave like me as a result. The power of our joint motivation is beyond belief, but not beyond accomplishment. What we can accomplish together has no limits, because the call for God is the call to the unlimited. Child of God, my message is for you to hear and give away as you answer the Holy Spirit within you. Okay, now before we do our closing song and our little practice period together, let's, for my mind is part of God's, I'm very holy, let's see what's going on around the world. You know, I found out that it's still Imbolc Day. It's actually halfway between. I think some people celebrate on the 1st and the 2nd, evening of the 1st and the 2nd, I think. But some people who are more literal want the actual halfway between solstice, winter solstice, and spring equinox. It'd actually be today. We're close to it. Depends on how you count it. 90 days between 45 days would be today, if I counted right. Also known as Imbolc, it's an Irish, Gaelic holiday. Candlemas, Brigantia, Feast of Bridget. She was a Christian saint. Feast of the Waxing Light, oil milk, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Return of light, fire, and life. Return the heat. Anyway, a word for peace out of the Gaelic is Shihan. So Shihan be with you. I was going to use the Aramaic word, which probably will when we close, that's spoken in Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, Israel, Iraq, Syria. And I said yesterday it was Shlomo, which it is, but it's also Shlomo. So Shlomo be with you. Or Shihan, if the Gaelic. Also International Day of Human Fraternity. That was a UN-sanctioned holiday. The word fraternity, group of people sharing a common interest. So, I like that. International Day of Human Fraternity. That's why I picked different words for peace, so we can kind of get the first, at least we can say peace to anybody who comes that doesn't speak English. If we learn their language for peace. Liberace Day, he was an entertainer pianist that died on this day in, what year? 1987, at 67 years old. Medjool Date Day, the Phoenix Dactylifera. The Medjool date, on Ramadan, Muhammad would break his daily fast at sunset or sundown, at dark, when you can't see the color of a thread anymore, with an odd number of dates if they were available, 3 dates, and water. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting idea. That dinner that they have at the end of Ramadan days, it's a several day of fasting, but they'd break it at night, and it's called the iftar meal. Create a vacuum. I've heard, we want to have a vacuum for God that just draws God into us mentally. Hemp day. Cannabis is the genus. There's 3 different species. There's sativa, indica, and rhodioralis. And I've just some things that they've been used for through the years and still used for by a lot of people: pain, epilepsy, anxiety, PTSD, and as a visionary medicine plant. Use it sacredly when you do it that way. Thank a mailman. Of course, these days you'd be thanking your Amazon driver, your UPS driver, your FedEx driver, and your neighbor down the road that brings you something. Anyway, thank everybody. Thank a mailman. Thank a delivery person. Quaker Day, also known as the Friends. They're a Christian offshoot started in the 1600s in England and New England. They believed in, and they still do, equality of all and inward access to God. Their meetings are usually sitting around quietly and asking God to speak. Rosa Parks Day, she was born on this day in 1914. She's the one that didn't give up her bus for the principal in Montgomery, Alabama. I think it was in 1955. She died in Detroit, Michigan on October 24, 2005. Torture Abolition Day. Yeah, we definitely want to not torture anybody. And that should be outlawed. World Cancer Day, a disease caused by uncontrolled division of abnormal cells in a part of the body. And we can train ourselves by doing A Course in Miracles to, how can I say this? To have a new way of looking at everything, and the backwash of that will be the body will begin to think according to the way that you realize that you're integrated, and the body will begin to recognize it's integrated and quit doing things that would end up killing itself, which mankind's doing with the way we're treating ourselves and the environment and each other and building up wars. And oh my, that's a cancer that we've developed in society. And there's the St. Anthony fig, or Marseilles fig, the Ficus corica, out of Edible Landscaping. And it says of the Marseilles fig, large yellow figs ripen the end of July on previous season's growth, very productive and early ripening, produces an early main crop of short-necked, delicately sweet fruit. The plant slows its growth into fall and hardens off well. There's usually no young wood dieback the following spring. Usually starts ripening a few weeks before Hardy Chicago and ends its production before Hardy Chicago does. Space 8 to 10 foot circles, zone 6 through 9, also called Oregon Prolific and St. Anthony fig. Okay, and why don't we close with our song? We're not going to have time to do our 5 minutes, but we can get you started. And then when this is over, just push stop or pause or quiet or mute or whatever and finish out your 5 minutes. I'll do that when I turn off the video. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. I see myself as fill in the blank. But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. I see myself as fill in the blank. But my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Okay, keep that up for a few minutes. And our word for peace, Shlomo. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. 3 times a day for 5 minutes. Do your practice. Shlomo.